Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Ooh, fun.
It's a classic. And, most people probably have to read it in high school or maybe even college.
Yeah, right.
But we're going to go a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah.
We've got excerpts from the book itself, but we also have some insights from an expert we're calling Dr. Bobby for this episode.
Great. Yeah.
So really, it's going to be all about looking at the characters and trying to figure out, what they tell us about the Roaring Twenties.
That's interesting.
The wealth, the class, the relationship.
Yeah, totally.
And some of the things we'll be looking at specifically are the symbolism, with the different eggs, and the allure of Daisy,
Right.
and Tom Buchanan's personality, which I'll just say up front is a little unsettling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, The Great Gatsby is... It's so much more than just like a love story or a rags to riches story.
Right.
It's really a commentary on the American dream itself.
Yeah.
Especially during this time of massive social and economic upheaval, the Roaring Twenties.
Totally. And to guide us through all of this, we have Nick Carraway, the narrator.
Right.
And he's interesting because he's this Midwesterner, but he comes from a aristocratic family.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's living this kind of modest life in the West Bank.
Yeah.
So what do you make of Fitzgerald choosing this less fashionable character as our guide?
Well, I think it's a really smart choice because it lets him be this outsider.
Okay.
Looking in on all this extravagance in East Egg.
Okay.
It gives him a unique perspective and lets him observe everything with a detached eye.
Right.
Almost like an anthropologist studying a new culture.
And he also has a background in literature.
Oh, that's right.
So it's almost like he's looking for deeper meaning beneath all the glitz and glam.
Totally. He's always analyzing and noticing details that somebody who's immersed in that world might miss entirely.
Yeah. So we have Nick, our observant outsider, setting the scene in West Egg.
Mm-hmm.
And Fitzgerald right away points out this bizarre and not a little sinister contrast with East Egg.
Yeah.
It's not just a geographical difference.
No, it's definitely more than that. I mean, think about those early descriptions. Like Nick's house is this eyesore sandwich between all these mansions.
Uh-huh.
And then you have Gatsby's mansion.
Right.
This over-the-top factual imitation of some Hotel de Ville in Normandy.
Yeah, he's trying too hard.
Totally. It screams new money, Almost like he's trying way too hard to fit in with the old money crowd over in East Egg.
So that visual difference is a symbol of a deeper divide between these two worlds.
Absolutely. West Egg is all about ambition and striving, reaching for something more.
Okay.
But East Egg has this air of entitlement.
Uh-huh.
Like wealth and privilege are just a given.
And it's not just about money either, right? It's about values.
Right. West Egg represents that pursuit of the American dream.
Okay.
And East Egg is more like what happens when you achieve that dream. That potential for corruption and moral decay.
Yeah. Speaking of corruption, let's talk about Tom Buchanan.
Oh, boy.
Fitzgerald describes him as this hard-mouthed guy with arrogant eyes and enormous power.
Yeah, you definitely get the sense that he's a dangerous character right from the start.
Absolutely. And Dr. Baba points out that the way Fitzgerald describes Tom physically, having a cruel body,
right,
that it's a direct reflection of his personality. Mm-hmm. He's aggressive, domineering, and uses his physicality to dominate everyone around him.
Totally. He's not a nice guy.
No, and on top of that, he's got these really disturbing views on race.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when he's going on about the rise of the colored empires?
Huh?
Why do you think Fitzgerald included that?
I think it's a reminder that even in the Roaring Twenties, with all the progress and change happening, there were still these deep prejudices.
Uh-huh.
It's like this fear of change, this clinging to the old ways
as
a way to hold on to power and privilege.
And what's even more unsettling is how he tries to present these racist ideas as scientific. It's fact, not just prejudice.
It makes you question how great that era really was.
Yeah, totally. It's easy to get caught up in the glamour.
Yeah.
But Fitzgerald's definitely showing us a darker side, too.
Absolutely. He's not glorifying the Roaring Twenties. He's showing us what's underneath the surface.
So you have Tom, this embodiment of brute force and outdated thinking.
Right.
And then on the other hand, we have Daisy with her captivating voice and bright, passionate mouth.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely alluring.
It's no wonder the men in the story are drawn to her.
Well, Dr. Bobby actually compares her to the sirens from Greek mythology.
Oh, wow.
The ones who lured sailors to their deaths with their beautiful singing.
Yeah.
It makes you think about whether Daisy's charm is dangerous. Is she manipulating these men on purpose?
Right.
Or is she just a product of her environment?
Yeah.
Like she's been taught that her value comes from her beauty and her ability to please men.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah. And Fitzgerald doesn't give us an easy answer.
Right.
It's one of those things that makes you think.
So just in these first few factors, we're already seeing how complex these characters are and like these little hints of darkness.
Yeah. And that's what makes The Great Gatsby so interesting. It's not just a simple love story.
Yeah.
It's about human nature and the American dream and all the things that can go wrong when you chase after it.
Yeah. It makes you think about what you're willing to sacrifice.
Exactly.
To get what you want.
Right. And what happens when you actually get it? Is it really what you thought it would be?
Okay. So next time we're going to be talking about some of the other characters. And
oh, yeah. Like Jordan Baker?
Yeah. Her. And digging a little deeper into the themes that we've started talking about.
Oh, excited.
Okay. So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
Last time we were talking about that contrast between West Egg and East Egg.
Right.
Like visually how it shows us the differences in like social and economic classes. Mm-hmm. But it goes deeper than that, right? Like their morals seem different too.
Oh.
Like I was thinking about how casually Daisy just mentioned Tom's affair.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like it's just...
like it's normal.
Yeah, expected almost.
Right, like it's a perk of being rich and powerful.
Like this twisted sense of entitlement.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of Tom, we were talking about his racist views last time.
Oh yeah, those are rough.
Dr. Bobby points out that even though they're awful to us now, they were pretty common back then.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So Fitzgerald's not like condoning it.
No, not at all.
He's just showing us that it was a part of society back then.
Exactly. It was a symptom of a society that was grappling with change.
And it's scary how he presents these ideas as scientific.
Yeah, like it's based on fact.
Yeah.
Instead of just prejudice.
Like, it makes you wonder if some people are just afraid of progress.
Oh, totally.
Like, they want to cling to the older ways.
Right, to hold on to their power.
Stay on top.
It's a reminder that these issues of wealth and class and prejudice,
right,
they're still relevant today.
Yeah, even though it's a story from like a century ago.
Exactly. The anxieties of a changing world, the struggles for equality, we're still dealing with these things.
It makes you think about the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it really attainable, or is it just this destructive illusion?
That's the thing about The Great Gatsby. It's not just a story. It's a social commentary.
Yeah.
Disguised as this glamorous tale.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths about the pursuit of wealth and happiness.
So we've talked about like the toxic parts of wealth,
right.
The cruelty, the prejudice, but what about the characters themselves?
Okay, yeah.
Like what makes them tick?
Right.
Let's start with Daisy.
Okay.
She's described as having this mesmerizing voice.
Oh, yeah.
Men find it difficult to forget. So it's clearly like a powerful tool for her.
It is. And Dr. Bobby actually compares her to the sirens.
Oh, wow. Again.
Yeah, from Greek mythology. The one who lured sailors to their deaths with their songs.
Right.
He's suggesting that Daisy's voice has that same kind of hypnotic quality.
So is she using it intentionally? Like, is she manipulative, or is she just a product of her environment?
I mean, she's been raised in a world where women are valued for their beauty and their ability to please men.
It's tough to say if she knows what she's doing or if it's just natural for her.
That's the big question, isn't it? And Fitzgerald doesn't give us an answer.
He leaves it up to us to decide.
Which is what makes it so interesting to think about.
Yeah. And then there's Jordan Baker.
Oh, yeah. She's different.
She's like independent and athletic. And Dr. Bobby points out that she's got this androgynous look.
Oh, yeah. With the slender, small-breasted physique and posture like a young cadet.
Like she's rebelling against traditional femininity.
Right. And Dr. Bobby connects that to the rise of the feminist movement happening in the 1920s.
So she's like a woman of her time.
Totally pushing those boundaries.
But is it fulfilling for her? Or does it lead to isolation?
I mean, especially when you compare her to Daisy, who's more traditional.
Yeah, like a wife and mother.
It seems like Fitzgerald's making us think about what it meant to be a woman back then.
Yeah, like all those new possibilities.
Yeah, and the new challenges, too.
And through it all, we have Nick, our narrator.
Right.
He's not just watching all this happen.
No, he's shaping the story.
Yeah, through his own perspective.
Like, we're only getting his side of things.
And you remember how we were saying he's less fashionable? That lets him see the flaws and the hypocrisy of the wealthy elite.
He's drawn to them, but also repulsed by them.
Like he's caught in the middle.
Yeah, and that tension runs through the whole book.
He went east for opportunity.
Right, like so many others.
But now he's seeing that the American dream, at least in this world, is corrupt.
Totally.
Before we wrap up, Dr. Bobby mentions that symbolism is really important in The Great Gatsby.
Oh, yeah?
Like, it adds these extra layers of meaning.
Right.
He says to pay close attention to the colors and locations.
Oh, good idea.
As we keep reading.
Like the green light at the end of Daisy's Dock.
Oh, right.
It's not just a light. It represents Gatsby's yearning for the past.
Okay.
For something he can't have.
And what about the Valley of Ashes?
Yeah, that desolate place. It's like a symbol of the moral decay.
Right.
The cost of chasing after wealth.
Yeah, and the colors.
Oh, yeah.
The golds and yellows of Gatsby's parties, the white of Daisy's dresses, that green light.
They all add another layer of meaning.
It's like, Fitzgerald is speaking in code, challenging us to figure it out.
That's why The Great Gatsby is so fascinating.
Yeah, it's a book that keeps you thinking. So as you keep reading, pay attention to those little details, those symbols and metaphors.
Right.
And remember that question we asked before?
About the American dream?
Yeah, is it really attainable or is it just an illusion?
Keep that in mind as you read.
The answer might surprise you.
It might. And that's what makes great literature so thought-provoking.
We've spent the last 2 episodes talking about the world of The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
You know, the symbolism, the characters, the social commentary.
Right.
But now it's time to talk about Gatsby himself.
Okay.
Gay Gatsby.
Yeah.
For most of the book, he's this mysterious figure, shrouded in whispers and speculation.
Like a legend, almost.
Do you think Fitzgerald did that on purpose?
I think so, yeah. It's like he's this mythical figure, this blank slate that people can project their own desires onto.
Right.
We hear about his parties and his past, but we don't really get to know him until later.
It's almost like he represents the American dream itself.
Right.
He's got all this wealth, these lavish parties, but there's this sense of emptiness around him.
Totally. And that's why his downfall is so sad.
Yeah, you go from seeing him as this invincible guy to this vulnerable, lonely man.
It's heartbreaking.
Dr. Bobby says that Gatsby's tragedy is that he believes so strongly in the American dream. Like, he's convinced he can recreate the past and win Daisy back.
It's like he's built his whole identity around this idea of her.
Yeah, and maybe that version of Daisy never even existed.
Right, and that's his fatal flaw.
Okay.
He's so focused on this dream that he doesn't see reality.
Like, Daisy's not the same person she was 5 years ago.
Exactly, and you can't recreate the past.
Nope, no matter how hard you try.
It's clinging to that illusion that destroys him.
Yeah, and his death.
Oh, man.
Shot by George Wilson.
Right.
Like a case of mistaken identity.
It's shocking.
It is, but it also feels kind of inevitable.
Yeah, like it had to happen.
In this world, dreams can be deadly.
Totally. It's a reminder that chasing after wealth and status, especially with that kind of obsession, can lead to bad things.
It's like a warning about the dark side of the American dream.
Yeah, that sometimes what you want most can destroy you.
But even with all his flaws, there's something tragic about Gatsby.
I agree.
He wants something more than all the shallowness around him.
But he goes about it the wrong way.
Totally climbing to the past.
Instead of living in the present.
And by failing, he shows us how empty the Roaring Twenties really were.
Where all that glitter and champagne, but underneath it's just moral decay.
So what about Nick?
Yeah, our narrator.
He's seen it all.
He has.
Gatsby's rise and fall, the ugliness behind the glamour. How do you think it changed him?
I think he goes through a huge transformation.
Okay.
Remember, he came to the East Coast full of ambition.
Right, for opportunity.
Yeah, but what he sees in West Egg and East Egg totally disillusioned him.
He sees how the American dream can corrupt people.
Exactly.
So by the end, he's lost his innocence,
yeah,
but he understands the world better.
Right. And how complicated people are.
It's interesting that he goes back to the Midwest.
Yeah, he rejects that East Coast lifestyle.
He saw how empty it was.
And he wants something more genuine.
Like, he's looking for the different kind of American dream.
Yeah, one with honesty and integrity.
That's hopeful.
It is.
Like, even when you see the bad stuff, you can still choose a different path.
It reminds us that we have the power to choose our own values.
Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into The Great Gatsby.
Wow.
We've covered a lot. The symbolism, the characters, the social commentary. And as you keep thinking about this book, think about what it says about the American dream today.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it still relevant?
Right.
Has it changed?
I mean, the world's different now.
Yeah.
Than it was in the Roaring Twenties.
But those questions about wealth and class and chasing your dream.
They're still important.
What does the American dream mean to you?
That's something for everyone to think about.
The Great Gatsby keeps resonating with people because it deals with these timeless themes.
Right, ambition, love loss.
And that search for happiness.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking for those stories that help us understand ourselves.
And the world around us.
Exactly.